Hello and welcome to With Great Power Reviews. I am Copper, and on this show I'll be going through and reviewing every single live-action superhero movie released, starting with Superman and the Mole Man in 1951. Ah, DC Comics, how I love thee. With such iconic heroes as Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and a host of others, how could anyone not love DC? They show a great understanding of what makes a hero, and what it takes to bring that hero to life on the big screen. And while some movies haven't done as well as others, there's still a certain charm to seeing your favorite heroes brought to life on the big screen. But they have to be faithful to the character, or else it won't work. And one of the characters that's the hardest to pull off on the silver screen is Superman. Created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, Superman first appeared in Action Comics #1 in June 1938. From the get-go, the story of the last Kryptonian captured readers' attentions and helped pioneer the superhero genre of comics and kept the genre at the top of the industry. He's a massively strong character with a lot of powers, and that's perhaps what makes him so hard to translate into film effectively. When you have someone with abilities that far exceed that of humans, there's only so much you can do with the human portraying them in a live-action setting. None of us are Superman. Except maybe this guy. He's got some chops. So, can the fledgling technological advancements of the early 1950s help bring Superman to life in a faithful adaptation? Let's find out. The movie opens at an oil well, the deepest in the world. For some reason, though, the digging is being cancelled and the facility is shutting down. A man named Bill Corrigan is having his workers put all of the equipment into a hole, which they will then fill back up. A worker tells Corrigan that there's a car coming down the hill, and we see Corrigan quickly hide something before the car pulls up. Riding inside the car are none other than Lois Lane and Clark Kent, two reporters here to write a feature story for the Daily Planet about the deepest oil well in the world. After learning that the well is being shut down, Clark and Lois go to have a talk with Corrigan. Now, one of the problems I have with this movie is the characterization of Clark Kent. Watch this scene where Clark interacts with Corrigan and see if you can spot why.
Mr. Corrigan, just what was in that report? I mean the one that you sent to the Home Office.
You're the newspaper man.
That's right, I'm Clark Kent from the Metropolis Daily Planet. And this is Miss Lane.
Too bad you came all the way out here for nothing.
It's one of those things, I guess. What about that report?
That's company business, Mr. Kent. Confidential.
I see.
Now, Bill, we promised these people full cooperation.
Well, then you cooperate. I haven't got the time.
In most of the comics nowadays, Clark Kent is a clumsy, bumbling oaf. Now, I realize that most of the serials of the time helped shape Clark's character into what it is today, but this doesn't seem to have carried over at all. In this movie, Clark seems rather calm and cool. Almost too cool, too clever. See, in the comics, they didn't believe that Clark was the Man of Steel because he was the total opposite of Superman. But this Clark just seems like he knows more than he's letting on. Corrigan mentions that they got 32,740 feet before they stopped digging. Clark and Lois are shocked at this, but are still left without a story.
I'm awfully sorry about this, Mr. Kent, but you see how it is. The right hand never knows what the left hand is doing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that would fall under the category of things better left unsaid. So Clark and Lois are told to stay in the hotel for the night, with apologies for coming all this way and getting nothing to go home with. Clark spots the tools that were thrown in the hole and remarks that maybe they'll have a story after all. Back at the hotel, Clark and Lois start thinking about how strange Bill Corrigan was acting earlier, and the pair decides to do some snooping. Oh my god, I'm sorry, but what about these things screams mole? They look like middle-aged, balding men with hairy hands. I mean, I know moles have hairy hands, but that's beside the point. I feel like I'm looking at a more gangly version of Danny DeVito. I know it's the 50s, but they could have done a lot more in the way of costume design. Really. So the mole men sneak around the well and eventually come to a window of the old man's shack. And Clark and Lois show up. Okay, it's a bit of a cliffhanger. Clark sees an open door and senses something is wrong.
Great Scott!
Clark and Lois run into the shack and find the old man lying dead on the ground. Lois suggests it might have been a heart attack that killed him, but Clark isn't so sure. Lois tells him to stop being so paranoid, but Clark makes a point that not every detail on the scene makes sense. He tells Lois to call Craig and goes outside to have a look around. And then, while Lois is on the phone... Oh God! That's actually kind of creepy. The way they just slide into view. Ugh. Lois screams, and Clark runs back and tells Craig to get to the well as fast as he can. When he arrives, Lois retells her story to Clark and Craig.
But I tell you, you've got to believe me. I saw them with my own eyes. They were staring at me through that window.
Were the animals or what?
I tell you, I don't know. They had the bodies of moles and great big human heads.
Moles. These guys... The coroner suspects a heart attack killed the old man, and Clark asks if the old man could have seen something that scared him so much it sent him into cardiac arrest. The coroner says it's a possibility, and as everyone is getting ready to leave, Clark chooses to stay behind with Corrigan to do a little more snooping. After everyone leaves, Clark tells Corrigan to spill the beans on the reason the well is being shut down. Corrigan comes clean, telling Clark that he started taking samples of what he'd been digging up, and found that the further he dug, the more intense a glow the samples gave off. They didn't know what was causing the glowing, but they suspected it was something radioactive, so they stopped digging to prevent any adverse effects from exposure. Corrigan says that after taking a sample from the drill head to the microscope, he found living organisms from 6 miles under the Earth's crust. They both come to the conclusion that there might be a whole civilization underneath the crust. Now, I don't really have a problem with this theory since it's nothing I can't suspend my disbelief for, but I think it's just the way that Clark takes all this information in stride that bothers me. I mean, Corrigan's had time to process the information, but Clark is just learning about this. Now, I know that he's alien and this shouldn't surprise him, but remember, Clark is still human to everybody else. Corrigan's putting forth a lot of heavy stuff, and Clark's just basically going, alright, what's next? If you read All-Star Superman number 5, you'll see Clark interviewing Lex Luthor in prison. Here, Clark has to be Superman while still keeping the guise of Clark. To do this, he basically keeps up the speech patterns and mannerisms of Clark while in sight of Luthor, but does the Superman things when Luthor isn't looking. But in the movie, his manner doesn't change when he eventually becomes Superman, as you'll see later. I just think the team was misguided on how Clark is supposed to act. I realize this movie came out long before All-Star Superman, but the character's core values shouldn't have changed. The phone rings and Corrigan answers. Doc Saunders tells Corrigan that someone saw the creatures on the side of the road, and as Corrigan and Clark head out, Clark notices that the oranges dropped by the old man are glowing, meaning the creatures must have handled them. We then cut to a long sequence of the Mole Men just wandering around, touching things, and observing various things. After that, we cut to the town, where we see a little girl in bed, reading and playing with a ball. When the Mole Men come up to the little girl's window, we see them react oddly as the little girl tries to speak with them.
Hello. Who are you?
Back at the Hotel Silsby, the townsfolk had gathered and are trying to figure out what to do about the creatures. Clark urges them to keep calm, promising them that he'll take care of the creatures one way or another.
Now listen to me, all of you. You don't know anything about these creatures, what they are or where they've come from. But here's a man that can tell you. Go on, Corrigan.
They came up out of the drill shaft in the oil well, from 6 miles underground.
They look strange to us, it's true. We must look just as strange to them. But as far as we know, they don't mean us any harm.
Yeah, what about old Pop Shannon?
And what about me?
Yeah, me too. There I was putting my hair up for the night when...
Don't you understand? All these things happened because you were frightened. Now, if you'll just be reasonable and keep your
Yeah, and
head-
what? Just settle down and let these critters take over? Not likely.
But don't you see, if you go around shooting at shadows, someone's liable to get hurt? Go home, lock your doors if you're afraid. Let me handle this.
Yes! Let the mild-mannered reporter from out of town take care of the creatures you're terrified of. That's a great idea. He could write a column casting them in a negative light. Our lives are in your hands, Mr. Kent. The mole men have now entered the house of the little girl, and I'm sorry. Am I the only one who finds this extremely creepy? If two little balding men came into my house in the middle of the night, the first thing I would do was not play catch with them. The mother comes into the room, sees the mole men, and screams. This alerts the townsfolk, who set off to hunt the creatures down. Clark turns into Superman and cuts the group off before they get to the house, eventually making them disperse. One of the townsfolk's dogs get the scent of the mole men, and they set off in search of them with Superman trailing behind. They follow the mole men to the dam, where they get them trapped at the top. Superman arrives, but the men shoot one of the mole men, and he drops off the dam. Superman catches him as he's falling, and the other mole man tries to make his escape. What ensues is a really long chase scene, and... Hold on. Is that... Oh my god, it is! I can actually see the lining of the headpiece this guy is wearing. Are you for real? In 1951, you couldn't have makeup that covered the line between headpiece and forehead? Movie, I want to give you credit, but you're making it really difficult. Anyway, like I was saying, the chase scene is unnecessarily long. It's about 5 minutes total, and with the dogs barking more than half of the time, it really starts to grind at the nerves. The chase scene ends with the mole men being chased into a rundown shack, which the men then proceed to set on fire. Thinking they killed it, they head back to town, not even bothering to check if it's dead. Alright guys, pop quiz. They think the person they're trying to kill is dead, but they don't go check. What happens next? A. The person is still alive. B. The person is still alive. C. The person is still alive. Or D. The person is still alive. If you answered any of the above, you are correct, because the person is still alive! Yes, the mole man survives, and we see him make his way back to the oil well, where he goes underground once more. Back in town, we see Benson and his friends in the sheriff's office, where he learns that the mole man that was shot is now recuperating in the hospital thanks to Superman. The sheriff tries to stop him, going after the mole man, but to no avail. Soon enough, Benson has rallied the whole town, and they confront Superman at the hospital. Superman tells the mob that they're being unreasonable because they have invaded the world of the mole men just as much as the mole men invaded ours, only we were more hostile. Superman proceeds to take the guns from the mob. Meanwhile, back at the oil well... The mole men head into town with the weapon and are finally met with Superman. He figures out that they want the other mole men from the hospital, and Superman goes to get him. While Superman is in the hospital, Benson comes at the mole men with a gun, but they shoot him first. Who would have thought the mole men would win a quick draw contest? Superman emerges from the hospital just in time to jump in front of the beam and save Benson's life. Superman takes the mole men back to the oil well, and as they leave, they also destroy the well and casing so that no one can get to them ever again. The movie finishes with Lois saying the line, "It's almost as if they were saying, 'You live your life, and we'll live ours.'" So, does the movie stack up? Well, apart from the really shoddy effects that I can't fault the movie for due to the era it was made in, the only real problem I had with the movie was the demeanor of Clark Kent. Now, I know he was originally mild-mannered to begin with, but this didn't seem mild-mannered. This seemed confident. And in Superman, it's really important to keep confident and mild-mannered separate. This movie effectively served as a trial run for the TV series Adventures of Superman, and later became the episode The Unknown People, so I guess for that purpose, it did its job well. The Man of Steel is a hard character to work with in film, and nobody's done it correctly so far, but somebody has to get it right eventually. Until then, this is Copper, closing the book.